Welcome back to G&S Inside Story. I'm Josh Laster, Senior Vice President of Client Service with G&S, and I'm really excited today to be talking again with Vice President Beth Smith. And Beth, it's Manufacturing Week.
Yes, it is. It's an exciting week for us, Josh.
Yeah, so we wanted to take this opportunity to talk about some of the recent trends that we're seeing across the advanced manufacturing space and offer some perspective and insights for communicators in particular. So let's start here, Beth. Each year, Manufacturing Day and Manufacturing Week, which are initiatives from the Manufacturing Institute and National Association of Manufacturers, really aim to shine a light on the manufacturing industry's tremendous contributions to the American and global economy, and specifically kind of really focusing on building and diversifying the modern manufacturing workforce. So that's an interesting place to start because as you and I look across the landscape of manufacturing, we're seeing some dominant trends worth considering, especially for communications. And that really starts with labor. 2023 has been so far the year of labor, with everybody from United Auto Workers to SAG and the writers out in Hollywood, really exerting their unionization power and trying to push for major change from wages to working conditions, protections against the technological incursion of AI and other kinds of things. We're also seeing the US investing heavily in supporting markets and building markets through the Inflation Reduction Act, the CHIPS Act, and other kinds of legislation to cement the US as manufacturing leaders, not just in innovation, but also in execution and actually building and executing on that global economy, from semiconductors, EVs, renewable technology, energy efficiency, and building technology. So there's a lot at stake here. And I think despite all that, we're seeing other economic pressures continue to persist, from interest rate stagnation, the high cost of capital. We're headed towards a 2024 election. So I guess the first question is, with all of these competing forces that are facing manufacturers today, to say nothing of what's going on within any individual company, what do you say to your clients in this space? Is there room for optimism, or do you see this as all doom and gloom?
Well, first of all, those are a lot of competing forces, Josh. So definitely something that's not easy to navigate. But my big advice is do not bury your head in the sand. There's definitely room for optimism here. First of all, talk about those commitments that your company is doubling down on now. This year, it is not about the quantity of your commitments. It's about the quality, and talking about the progress that you have along the way, not waiting until it's done to talk about it. Also, I think so important is cultivate all the data that you need to tell these stories credibly, but don't let that paralyze you. If you've got some data to support where you are right now, that's great. Tell those stories. Whether it's around, achieving those short-term sustainability goals or those corporate initiatives that you're trying to execute on to help meet those business goals. Make sure that you're using data to support it, but don't let that stop you from telling those stories. And then also, when you can, tell these great stories and collaborations with partners or customers to bring that message to life in a way that isn't just corporate speak. That really helps humanize the story. And during these crazy times of manufacturing, by having your partners or customers rally around an initiative or topic, it helps bring the story to life and just shine even greater light on it. And I think last thing I want to mention that a lot of people, I think, sometimes forget during times like this is don't be afraid to talk about company culture. There are industries right now in the manufacturing industry that are desperately needing to hire, from those benefiting from the CHIPS Act to those in the robotics space. And prospective employees need to see these positive stories of company culture in order to want to come and work for you. And I think also there's such a need right now for training, that where you have those special training programs, we've seen a lot, some of our companies partnering with universities on this, showcase those and showcase the real people who are taking part of it and the success that they're having. So you can really highlight your company as a place that, people don't just want to work with, but really work for as well. So don't be afraid to celebrate these things through, different communications efforts. At the end of the day, it's not always about what's down the line, but those things that you can talk about now that you can share with confidence to really make sure you're not burying your head in the sand during a time like this.
It's such an interesting point because, as we're kind of talking about, there are so many things that are being thrown at manufacturers in general, but the communications and marketing arms within them especially. And you talked about labor and challenges with retention, challenges with hiring. investing in that training and education and retention, all of those efforts to kind of solve that labor problem require really sustained commitments. And they're not going to solve the problem for tomorrow. They're going to solve the problem for next year or 2 or 3 years down the line. And, that kind of foresight can be a luxury when you're being bombarded with other priorities or, the needs of tomorrow. So, we've heard from the CEO of NVIDIA and others that don't do 1-year plans, 5-year plans, 10-year plans. Talking about the long range priorities, a lot of folks are viewing that as something that is a distraction because it'll just sit on a shelf collecting dust. And talking to our clients, we hear more often than not, those long range plans end up just being an exercise in kind of, the theoretical. So for us, an important takeaway is to start somewhere. As you said, it's really about establishing momentum. And, we've talked about labor struggles. We've talked about how that's kind of spreading across different industries right now. And as those labor struggles play out, productivity for manufacturers has taken a big hit. And we've heard again and again from clients about the challenges with long-term investment in the adoption of robotics technologies or other automation. And I think those fall into a similar bucket as labor, where the current pain of having a lot of open headcount for machine operator roles, for example, it is not enough of a spur to lay out a lot of capital investment in automation technology or robotics or anything that's going to be kind of that long range strategic plan. So, again, for communicators, there's a real tension right now between the long-term strategy and the immediate need of the business, which I think is really acute for the marketing and communications function, especially when we see such lean and mean communications teams that are being stretched further than ever, right? Working across disciplines, becoming really good firefighters, but struggling to find the time or the resources to build and begin to execute against a long-term strategy. So for us, that's a big part of our role as counselors, to help encourage our clients to take a step back, offer that bigger picture perspective, and in certain cases, bandwidth to strategize, to plan, to create. But don't let that complete lack of answers deter you from communicating your vision and your progress along the way. That's so critical.
Yeah, I completely agree with you there, Josh. I mean, you can't become paralyzed just waiting for it. So
Yeah. So with so many demanding long-term investments, what's your thought on how manufacturers can be talking about wins today and celebrating those things that are really facing them down the long run?
sure, there's probably 4 things, and some of these are going to be a bit repetitive, but that's because I find them so important. Number one, be authentic. Like I said before, don't be afraid to double down on those commitments that you're really committed to now and that are true to your mission and vision and values, and talk about them in a very authentic way. Don't try to be something you're not. You need to be authentic about it. Secondly, talk about those steps along the way. I mean, what better way to humanize a brand than to basically say, hey, we don't have it all figured out, but we are striving to it. We're working hard. We're partnering with people. And here's what we've learned along the way. And here's how we're going to make progress. I mean, those are all stories that I think make a brand so much more human and show that, we're in this, we're working hard to achieve greatness. And hand in hand with that, talk about the longer term vision and then those progress along the way in achieving that too. Again, don't just wait till the progress is till it's achieved. Talk about that progress as you go and the way that you're hitting those milestones. And lastly, like I said, don't be afraid to shy away from showcasing and talking about company culture. It is so important right now. And again, such an important way to help fill those jobs within the manufacturing space that are lacking, because you want to be a place that people want to come and work for.
Such great points. And I think that should include pivots too, right? If your strategy or your vision change,
Yes.
don't be afraid to talk about why. What direction were we heading? Why have we made a strategic shift? And what are the new milestones? It's okay to update that vision in real time. I think it only speaks to that authenticity. So that leads us to our big takeaways for Manufacturing Week, which is really to remember the words of Warren Buffett, who has two quotes that kind of really resonate with our conversation today. The first is attempt to be fearful when others are greedy, and be greedy only when others are fearful. And the second is risk comes from not knowing what you're doing. So from taking time to define and understand and build consensus around your strategy, that piece is so important. It eliminates so much of the risk that I think paralyzes communicators at times. And find counselors who can really validate and help bring a deeper perspective to help you and your company stand out amid all this uncertainty. And then don't afraid to be greedy about taking that share of voice that you deserve for putting in the hard work and speaking up when others are fearful. So as always, thanks to you, Beth, for a great conversation, and thanks for watching.